You anticipate decluttering as aloof about throwing things away? Number. It's about against the weight of your past, the adventure of your activity accounting in objects, and the abundant adeptness that time is effective forward, whether you like it or not. Now, bodies will acquaint you, it's easy. Just let go of what you don't need, accord it, bung it, move on. But that's naive. The action of decluttering in your afterwards years is not aloof a concrete act. It's a cerebral reckoning. And there are bristles barbarous truths about it that no one wants to acquaint you, but you charge to apperceive them. Every account you own is added than aloof an object. It's a symbol, a allotment of your claimed history, a actual representation of experiences, memories, and alike aspects of your identity. A back you attending about your home, you don't aloof see furniture, clothes, or keepsakes. You see the adventure of your activity reflected in these objects. And that's why decluttering in your afterwards years isn't aloof about chief what to accumulate and what to bandy away. It's about adverse the absoluteness that assertive capacity of your activity are closing. And that's an abundantly difficult affair to do. Anticipate about the backing you've accumulated over decades. The books on the shelf adeptness admonish you of the adeptness you already sought. The actuality you were a back you aboriginal apprehend them. The accoutrement in the barn adeptness acquaint the adventure of the projects you built, the things you fixed, the faculty of adequacy you already had. That old clothing or dress you haven't beat in years, adeptness be angry to an important event, a wedding, a promotion, an anniversary of who you were at that time. These alter don't aloof booty up space, they authority affecting weight. The attempt with decluttering is not aloof about concrete belongings. It's about identity. A back you abandon an object, you are, in a way, acceptance that allotment of your activity is over. And that's terrifying. It's not aloof the account you're absolving go of. It's the role you played, the adaptation of yourself that already bear that object. If you spent your activity as a professional, accepting rid of old assignment abstracts can feel like adage goodbye to that allotment of yourself. If you were an artist, departing with old canvases or food may feel like an acceptance that your artistic canicule are abaft you. A like absolution go of article, as simple as a set of dishes, can accompany up abrupt emotions. Memories of ancestors' meals, gatherings, a home that was already abounding of amusement and conversation. This is why so abounding bodies abstain decluttering. It's not aloof about authoritative decisions about what stays and what goes. It's about against time itself. It's about acknowledging that the activity you built, the adventures you lived, are not static. They evolve, they change, and some things accordingly fade. But what abounding bodies don't apprehend is that captivation onto aggregate doesn't stop time from effective forward. It alone creates accidental burden, both physically and emotionally. The key to abyssal this action is compassionate, that your character is not angry to your possessions. You are not your old books, your exhausted clothes, or the souvenirs from trips taken decades ago. You are the actuality who accomplished those moments, and that will never change. No amount what you adjudge to accumulate or discard. Your value, your wisdom, your memories, all of that exists oral you, not in the altar about you. A back you let go of clutter, you are not accident pieces of yourself. You are authoritative amplitude for the abutting affiliate of your activity to disentangle with accuracy and intention. Absolution go of backing isn't a loofy amount of chief what you know best need. It's an affecting battle, one that generally comes with an cutting faculty of guilt. Every account you exceed auctioning carries a story, some joyful, some painful, but all cogent in their own way. And a back you aces up an old gift, a letter, or a admired heirloom. It's not aloof an article in your hands. It's a affiliation to someone, a admonition of a promise, a attribute of a accord that mattered. The abstraction of auctioning it can feel like a betrayal, as if by absolution go of the object, your absolution go of the actuality or the anamnesis itself. This is why so abounding bodies attempt to declutter, abnormally in afterwards years. There's a abysmal abhorrence that by removing article from your space, your abatement a allotment of history. A allowance from a sleep admired one isn't aloof an item. It's affidavit that they were already here, that they cared for you. The accumulating of altogether cards, alike ones decades old, admonish you of the bodies who already acclaimed you, who took the time to accede your attendance in their lives. Letting go of these things can feel like an act of forgetting, as if you are absolution the accent of those relationships. But the accuracy is, befitting an article does not accompany the accomplished back. It does not accumulate a actuality alive. It does not bottle a moment in time. Answerability additionally comes in addition form, the activity that accepting rid of article is careless or disrespectful. You adeptness, attending it in big-ticket covering you never wore, and feel accusable that you didn't use it enough. Or maybe you were aloft to accept that throwing things abroad is irresponsible, that aggregate has value, and that auctioning article is an insult to the assets that went into creating it. But what abounding bodies don't apprehend is that befitting article out of answerability doesn't add amount to it. An article sitting bare in your home does not account its purpose. It alone takes up amplitude and weighs on your mind. Addition, aching antecedent of answerability, comes from the abstraction that you adeptness affliction, your accommodation later. You adeptness think, what if I charge this someday? What if I get rid of it and a fresh aback ambition I had it back? This abhorrence of affliction can be paralyzing, authoritative it about absurd to allotment with anything. But the absoluteness is that best of the things we adhere to out of abhorrence rarely serve us in the future. If article has been bright for years, the affairs of absolutely defective at a fresh or slim. And alike if you do, there are consistently agency to adapt, replace, or move advanced afterwards it. The key to advantageous answerability in decluttering is compassionate, that memories, love, and account are not stored in objects. They are stored in you. The appulse bodies accept on your activity is not beneath by absolution go of the things they labored behind. By absolution accidental possessions, you are not auctioning your past. You are authoritative allowance for your present and acceptance yourself to alive with greater abandon and peace. One of the best aching realizations, a back decluttering afterwards in activity, is that the things you've anxiously saved, acquisitive to canyon bottom, down to your accouchement or grandchildren, may not be wanted. For decades, you adeptness accept captivated on to heirlooms, furniture, books, or collectibles, assertive that one day they would acquisition a abode in the abutting generation's home. But aback that moment comes, you may be met with alienation or a like absolute refusal. The adolescent bearing doesn't consistently allotment the aforementioned adapter to objects, and this can feel like a claim rejection. It's important to accept that this is not an absorption of your account or the acceptation of your memories. Times change, and so do tastes, lifestyles, and values. Abounding adolescent bodies today adopt minimalism over sentimentality. They alive and abate spaces, move added frequently, and generally accept functionality over nostalgia. The abundant oak dining table that was already the affection of ancestors' gatherings may be apparent as an abstract burden. The accumulating of china you admired, adeptness, be advised anachronous or too brittle for avant-garde living. Even the photo albums anxiously abiding over the years may not authority the aforementioned acceptation for those who grew up in a agenda. Apple area memories are stored on screens rather than in scrapbooks. This can be an acutely affecting experience. It adeptness feel as admitting your history, your traditions, and alike your character are actuality dismissed. After all, these items are added than aloof things. They represent your life, your achievements, and your relationships. But adhering to the acceptance that your backing charge be admired by the abutting bearing can advance to accidental disappointment and frustration. The absoluteness is that the accurate bequest you leave abaft is not in objects, but in the acquaint you've taught, the adulation you've shared, and the acumen you've imparted. Instead of captivation onto things out of the achievement that addition will appetite them later, exceed accepting honest conversations with your ancestors now. Ask what they absolutely amount and be able for answers that may abruptness you. In abounding cases, what they admire best isn't appliance or jewelry, but simple things. Handwritten letters, belief about their ancestors, or like a accurate compound that reminds them of home. Memories and access are added elusive than any concrete object. If assertive items are unwanted, Don't let that stop you from giving them additional activity elsewhere. Abounding things can be donated, sold, or repurposed by addition, who will absolutely acknowledge them. It's far bigger to absolution them into the Apple area. They can be acclimated and admired rather than befitting them, stored abroad out of obligation. Holding on to backing that no one wants does not accomplish them added valuable. It alone adds to your affecting and concrete burden. Absolution go of the apprehension that your ancestors will abundance. Aggregate you leave abaft is freeing. It allows you to focus on what absolutely matters. Your relationships, your well-being, and the bequest you actualize through the way you alive rather than the things you own. Your amount is not in your belongings. It is in the impulse you accept on the bodies about you. The added you own, the harder activity becomes. This is an accuracy that generally goes disregarded until the accountability of control starts interfering with circadian living. What already acquainted like an antecedent of comfort, accepting aggregate you adeptness charge oral reach, eventually turns into an obstacle both physically and mentally. The weight of ataxia doesn't aloof booty up amplitude in your home. It takes up amplitude in your mind. Every drawer abounding with old papers, every closet arranged with bare clothes, every shelf ample with abandoned trinkets, all of it demands absorption alike if alone in the background. And over time, that accession leads to stress, exhaustion, and a faculty of actuality trapped. A anarchic home makes alike the simplest tasks added difficult. Looking for an important certificate becomes a arresting chase through bags of papers. Moving through a awash alley agency, anxiously abyssal, about things that know best serve a purpose. Charwoman takes best as every apparent is covered with things that charge to be dusted, moved, or organized. What was already an amplitude of abundance can alpha to feel like a burden, creating a connected faculty of overwhelm. As bodies age, concrete limitations additionally appear into play. Bending bottomward to adeptness the lower shelves, aggressive a ladder to get article from storage, or artlessly action about appliance that no best fits the amplitude can become added difficult. What already acquainted like affected treasures can boring become hazards. Piles of books become benumbed risks. Stacks of old newspapers accumulate dust and aggravate allergies. A home that was already abounding with memories begins to feel like an obstacle course, and a back movement becomes restricted. Adeptness starts to fade. But the weight of ataxia is not aloof physical, it's psychological. Every account carries a decision. Should it stay? Should it go? What if it's bare someday? The brainy amount of consistently authoritative these choices leads to accommodation fatigue, a faculty of actuality afflicted by too abounding options. When the ambiance is cluttered, so is the mind. Studies accept apparent that balance ataxia can access anxiety, abate focus, and alike accord to animosity of depression. A anarchic amplitude makes it difficult to feel at peace. The academician craves order, and aback it's amidst by too abundant stuff, it struggles to acquisition clarity. Absolution go of accidental accoutrements is not aloof about tidying up. It's about accomplishment space, both physically and mentally. A home with beneath things is easier to navigate, easier to clean, and easier to enjoy. The air feels lighter, the apperception feels clearer, and activity becomes simpler. The abstraction that captivation onto things provides aegis is an illusion. Accurate aegis comes from the adeptness to move freely, to alive afterwards accidental burdens, and to focus on what absolutely matters. Decluttering is not about loss, it's about creating an ambiance that supports well-being, accord of mind, and an activity that is easier to manage. The beneath things you accept belief you down, the added abandon you accretion in return. Decluttering is generally apparent as an ancient event. Article you do aback, you assuredly accept the time or activity to array through aggregate you've accumulated over the years. But the accuracy is, it's not a distinct project. It's an advancing process, one that requires connected accommodation, authoritative, and maintenance. The abstraction that you can declutter already and be done with it is an illusion. Abnormally in an Apple area, new things abide to access your life, whether you intend them to or not. The absoluteness is that if you don't actively administer what comes into your home, the ataxia will return, sometimes alike faster than before. One of the capital affidavit bodies attempt with advancement, a clutter-free amplitude, is that they focus alone on removing things afterwards, acclimation the habits that led to the accession in the aboriginal place. Even if you bright out an absolute room, it won't break that way unless you change the way you collaborate with backing effective forward. This agency actuality advised about what you accompany into your activity, and analytic whether article absolutely adds amount for accepting it. It additionally agency ambience boundaries, not aloof with yourself, but sometimes with others who abide to accord you things you don't need. Another difficult accuracy is that decluttering is emotionally exhausting, and that burnout doesn't abandon aloof because you've accomplished charwoman out of space. Sorting through a lifetime of accoutrements armament you to accost memories, accomplish decisions, and alike regrets. It's mentally demanding to afresh ask yourself whether articles should break or go, and for abounding bodies that fatigue leads to avoidance. This is why ataxia builds up again, because ambidextrous with it requires a akin of affecting activity that bodies aren't consistently able to give. The alone way to accomplish it acceptable is to accommodate it into your routine, rather than cat and mouse until things accumulation up to an cutting degree. Abounding bodies additionally belittle aloof how abundant time it takes to absolutely declutter in a elusive way. It's not aloof about demography, a few hours on a weekend, to apple pie out a closet. If you've spent decades accumulating possessions, it's activity to booty time to go through them properly. Rushing the action generally leads to regret, either from auctioning things too agilely or from befitting too abundant, because you didn't accept the brainy accuracy to accomplish the appropriate decisions. Accepting that decluttering is the abiding action allows you to access it with added patience, authoritative decisions with ambition rather than urgency. The final claiming is accepting that alike afterwards you've decluttered, you will accept to abide authoritative decisions about your amplitude for the blow of your life. There is no absolute endpoint area aggregate is acclimatized forever. Instead of seeing decluttering as the accomplishment line, it's bigger to see it as a way of living, one area you are consistently evaluating what absolutely matters, absolution go of what doesn't, and creating an ambiance that supports the activity you appetite to live. The abandon that comes from a clutter-free amplitude isn't an ancient reward. It's article that charge be maintained day by day, best by choice.